Mashpee Sewer Commission on Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at 2 p.m. and we are being broadcast live on Mashpee TV, Channel 8. May I ask you all to silence your cell phones, please, if you have one. And I will now call the meeting to order, and I would like those of you who are able to stand to please stand so that we can say a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll have a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. The minutes from the previous meeting on August 1st were distributed, and I would like to know if there are any corrections from the commissioners.
I have read them. I move they be approved as printed.
Any
I second that, yeah.
Then the meetings, and there are no comments, then the minutes will stand accepted as approved, or approved as accepted. Okay. We are going to have an update. The first order of new business is the sewer construction monthly update from...
Comment?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Next step would be public comment. Anyone who is interested in expressing public comment. Susan, do you have who's the order of people who signed up?
I do.
Thank you. And first we have Alex Gamata. Please come to the microphone and please state your name and address.
Sure. Sit down? Or, yeah.
Your choice.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chairwoman and members of the commission, my name is Alex Gamota. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called 3PO Networks. I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Been on the Cape yesterday, today, having some conversations with people regarding a solution that we provide. We're a third-party owner of critical infrastructure. We finance, operate, and own modern sewer combined with dark fiber to the homes. Our primary markets are workforce housing that have been stalled by the fact that they don't have a sewer solution. At the same time, appreciate that on the Cape and in Mashpee, there's also situations where people have septic systems and they're looking to move to a sewer system. So wanted to put a face with the name since I was in town. The next person on the list is Bill Snyder, who'll speak next with Orenco. It's a technology that we utilize with our modern sewer, and look forward to hearing today's session and continuing conversations in the community. That is it.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
The next person on the list is Bill Snyder. Bill Snyder.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to address you. I'm Bill Snyder. I'm the Northeast Regional Manager for Orenco Systems. We are an Oregon-based company that have been in existence for 40 years. Our opportunity in this area would be to bring both collection and wastewater treatment solutions. Our wastewater treatment solution would be 50% of the cost and compared to a gravity sewer, and can be used in both new and existing communities. And we also bring to bear wastewater treatment systems that will obviously address the nitrogen limits that everybody out here is having to contend with over the next 35 years. So we can provide that collection system at a lower front-end cost. It's a sustainable system, easy to maintain, and we can reach their nitrogen limit of 10 that DEP is going to be pushing everybody to go to. Goal here today is just bring a little awareness to everybody that we're here. And if there's any opportunities for us to work with anybody or you have questions, please feel free to reach us or 3PO.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Mike Milbury.
Good afternoon. I'm just here to introduce myself as the liaison between this commission and the finance board. So I just wanted to say hello, figure out a little bit about what you guys do, and hopefully continue some sort of a relationship if necessary or when needed with the finance committee. That's it.
We understand you're just new to the commission, the committee,
Yes, yes.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other public comments? That's all who had signed up. All right, thank you. Moving on now to new business. We have a sewer construction update from Scott Winger from GHD.
To the microphone?
Yes, please.
Really? Thank you. We don't have the pictures to illustrate the progress quite yet, but I'll describe what has been going on since you were last updated. I believe that was a month ago.
2 weeks. Oh, yeah, it was a month ago.
The most recent work has been refining the site in preparation for paving. The building construction is all but complete, and they are working on equipment installation and preparation for connecting power and the control systems. So we have equipment installation, piping, testing. They're starting some preliminary testing and just ensuring that all of the pieces work together without any conflicts in terms of space and access throughout the plant. So in the last work quarter, site work was performed, including stormwater and drainage structures. At the influent pump station, the receiving point for the plant, control panels were placed. The structures, the ancillary structures for that pump station were installed, including the access hatch, vent piping, and bypass piping in the event that the station ever needs to be bypassed, pumped around. So in the stormwater system, we've got various rain gardens on the site that treat the runoff for water quality before being discharged to the infiltration beds. And those are being, as you may see, on site, they're being graded in preparation for topsoiling. At the preliminary treatment building, the exterior work is largely done. In fact, I would say 99% done. And we have minor finish touches such as bollards, door hardware, exterior lights. And that's pretty much the bulk of the exterior work there. One of the bigger items that was accomplished in this period was the assembly of the odor control system, which arrived at the site in various parts. It's largely fiberglass tank structures, tanks and piping, and which sits on a concrete structure, and that has been assembled this month, and the piping is fabricated on site from the pieces that are sent. They assemble it and then fiberglass that together, and that has transpired. Today we received a large shipment of the biofilter media, which is the holding holding place for the bacteria that consume the odors from the plant. So, and they happen to be, at least a portion of these are shell media, and it's not by accident that they choose shells. It's it creates little puddles within the biofilter and that are attractive to a certain type of bacteria on the cup part of the shell and another type on the convex part of the shell. So you get anaerobic, anaerobic, depending on how much air they like. But the combination of those two results in consuming odors. I had touched on the picture I would have shown would have been the interior of the preliminary treatment building. The screening structures are most prominent. And we have, these are cylindrical screens, and they are, you have a stepped screening system, which is a particularly good protection for the membranes against any kind of debris, which is their greatest vulnerability. You don't want sharp objects of any kind in there because the aeration movement can abrade the membranes. So this screening system that you have addresses that. On the opposite side of the screening portion of the preliminary treatment building is the principal electrical room for the entrance of the entrance service, the service entrance, which is a very particularly interesting thing to see if you happen to be on site, in that you get an idea of the size of conductors that come from your service transformer that feed the plant. And you rarely get to see that type of detail except now when the panels, when the switchgear is open, and it's quite marvelous, actually. And where you would anticipate, for the kind of power consumption we have at this plant, you might expect a single power cable of 1.5 inches, 2 inches, for instance. But those are too hard to manipulate and pretty uncommon. So there are many smaller cables. There are 6 smaller cables that take the place of one large cable. And again, it's for manageability and constructability, and they build the switchgear to accommodate all of that. But if you're on site, I'd be glad to show you what I'm talking about there. In the process building, again, this is essentially completed for the structure and the exterior. The lights have been energized through not through the main panels, not through the permanent panels. They have connected temporary setup so that for the workers and essentially for the workers. They've been pouring sidewalks, all of the exterior elements that you need that will abut pavement. Again, there are bollards that have been placed, chemical fill stations so that chemical supply can come up and they don't have to run a hose inside. They can connect to the fill ports outside. Gas service has been installed. That may have been accomplished at the last report. And we have been doing air piping. This is stainless steel for the most part. And it has been, it is largely complete at this point. They prefabricated much of the stainless steel off-site, and then it's been fit carefully on-site, and the final welding has occurred. Let's see, the chemical room. The chemical room is another, it's a sight to see because of all of the components there. This is chemical feed that will balance the treatment process and also help to maintain the permeability, the integrity of the membranes. And it contains the chemical feed pumps, all of their associated wiring, and now the piping is what's occurring right now. But you'll see a lot of action in the chemical room. It's filling up. The permeate pump room has 2 permeate pumps. These are really the part of the. They are the connection to your membrane. They are the item drawing out the effluent, the very clear, high-quality effluent that you'll receive. They've been connected, and we will run our chemical lines to those, but all of the exterior piping connections except chemical have been made. In the basement of the process building, the mixed liquor pumps have been connected, and you'll see the stainless steel piping, valves, and control elements that allow redundancy so that one pump can take the place of the other as needed. That's all in place. And then for the effluent discharge, the final grading and configuration of the discharge beds has been done, and recently the guardrails separating the paved areas from the ponds have been installed. That's the treatment plant. So the collection system, which I have only a tangential, just a peripheral awareness of, but I'm bringing in reports from Sandy. And I understand, so the collection system north, they reached substantial completion in June, and they are currently working on cleanup and the punch list. There are closeout items, and they're very near the end of that project. Asher's Path was a place of work. I'm not sure if you had received that at the last report, but it was all of the milling and repaving and shoulder cleanup was done. The collection system south, it is all roadway restoration and cleanup has been ongoing, and finalizing pump station work. And that has all of the pump station mechanical and electrical has been performed, and they are working on site work and finishing on Falmouth Road and Mashpee Neck pump stations. Final testing for these stations will not occur until there's sewage or water provided to the wet wells, in that they don't want to store the pumps for any period of time before they're put into regular service. And I'll provide the graphics of the construction progress and cash flow are something I'll provide following this meeting. I can summarize that we have continued to, for the treatment plant, that has continued to advance in the same trend as the prior months. And we are still we're under budget, and there will be some increase in rate of spending as we get toward the closure, as a natural result of integrating all of the equipment to work together. And we're anticipating that to arrive at its budgeted amount. We're not expecting a change from that. The collection system north is running under the adjusted budget amount, and it's anticipated that you will arrive with somewhat under budget, and somewhat being, I don't know what percentage that is, but it is certainly not exceeding, but below budget. which is a advantage you get with unit price contracts, is that if you don't use up all of the units, you can arrive under budget. That can help you out in the event you had other contingencies. The collection system south is currently running, it was, as I'm reading this, slightly over the anticipated expenditure right now, but it is on a trajectory to meet the budgeted amount. Phase 1 alternate rebid is progress meetings began on that August 14th, yesterday, that's right. And submittals are ongoing for materials for the project, so they're being provided to us, the engineer, for review and approval. Phase 2 design. The survey and boring crews have been active. They're currently paused, waiting for permissions on private roads for drilling. The archaeological survey is slated to begin shortly, and the 60% design for 2 of 4 areas is complete, and 60% design for the linear pump station, 60% progress on the linear pump station design is being developed, and 60% of the treatment plant improvements are being submitted for review. Permitting is ongoing, and the development of the groundwater discharge permit is ongoing. And that is the news I have. Are there any questions?
I've got a couple. I know a lot of work went into those slides, and could you make sure that we get a copy of those sent to us electronically?
Certainly. I think the pictures will help to update everyone on what's been happening.
Thank you.
The status of the now infamous motor control centers?
Yep. They had told us that there was a delay. That has not improved any since the last update, that it was pushing us out approximately 7 months from the initially anticipated completion. That has, occasionally we would get a reprieve on that, and they'd say, well, we overpromise or underpromise and overdeliver, and we haven't had any indication that that's true. There's also some indication that it may be 2 additional months in coming, and we're working with the contractor on developing a schedule that shows that, so we can identify the impact. Does that constitute a slowdown on our administration of construction of the plant, and what does that look like for connecting? Ultimately, you're receiving components. Our ability to receive flow from the community is still centralized around the influent pump station and the equalization basins. And as we approach this, there are strategies that we can enact that ensure that that we can at least uphold what they had promised about the 7-month delay. That they have options for energizing everything related to the influent pump station up to equalization.
And the other question, where do we stand with the emergency generator? Is that all now wired, or?
It is not. It is not the driver for the schedule, but there are no delays on its anticipated arrival. It's not here yet, but it is. It's nothing has changed for its schedule.
I have a question for you, Scott. So is there anything else that we're awaiting that might be backordered or slowing us down, other than the things you've mentioned?
There are some control components from Veolia, the membrane system supplier, that are potentially they would delay us to the extent of the motor control centers if it extends beyond this month. It would become in the critical path. And we met on that yesterday with the contractor, Sandy Tripp, myself, to identify what the strategy is moving forward to ensure that the schedule does not creep as a result of that. The contractor extended an assurance that they extended an assurance of not allowing a further delay. Nothing on their part would delay this, and they were applying pressure to ensure that we got all the materials we needed.
So are we still on target for the potential of the flow potentially beginning January to April of 2025?
That is still, that would meet, that still is acceptable timing.
Great. Yeah, I think that becomes important, for people to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Jared, please?
Just a comment. Thank you. So one of the issues is like the mixing units. The system can run without them. So when he says delay in some of these components, it's the system can run with it, and we just install it when they come in there. But it should not change the timeline of startup. So that's a little clarification on those are the types of things that we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. I have just one other question that you had said, Scott, when you talked about the bioactive fields, or however you describe them. There are no active bacteria, and they won't be introduced until there's actual flow for the bacteria to work on, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's the system that's there in preparation for the bacteria.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Phyllis?
Yeah, I have a brief question. What is the total annual power consumption expected from this wastewater treatment facility? I know they use a lot of power. Is there any kind of way to present it so we can comprehend what we're coming up for?
There is a way to present it. I will have to look up, I will have to get back to you on that. And I know that is, has been evaluated. It's considered in your, even the comparison of treatment processes. They look at lifetime costs, maintenance, power consumption, chemicals, and all. So
Okay.
I know it's there. I need to research that, and I will bring that back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Catherine? you
Just
had
a
comment?
clarification. At what point in the testing protocol, before actual startup of and service of the facility to the public, at what point does the media, the bacteria, get introduced into the system?
The testing sequence is the equipment's connected and integrated so that it's all individual components are then working together as a system. A clean water test is done. Following that, mixed liquor, the active culture for the treatment plant is brought in, and that happens I believe it is it's 60 days or shorter after the clean water testing is done.
Does that come before the final authorization from the state?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because there needs to be verification that the process is functioning as
As
promised.
promised to the state. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that the computer wasn't working again.
Quite all right. So,
you.
Why do we
thanks
have
again.
that problem?
2 months in a row.
Okay, our next order of business, we welcome our town manager who has come to join us to discuss his clean water goals and for us to have a chance to talk about these wonderful goals that we're all excited about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first thing I guess I would like to do is just go over some of your questions that were sent to me, and I'll read the questions and go over the answers so that the public hears it as well. In terms of the goals, I want to thank the superintendent who worked with me, and in conjunction with him and with the approval, the full unanimous approval of the Select Board, they were adopted and moved forward. The first question that was presented to me was the PEF for the large community septic system of Wakeby Pond. Is there a target date in late 2024 for GHD to develop a supplemental analysis? The plan is to complete the work and cost estimate by the end of November, beginning of December, in that time frame. Is there a way the Sewer Commission can facilitate this work? At this time, there is no additional assistance required. We're talking about operational issues. What type of system is envisioned? Who will design it? Once it has been determined that this separate cluster system is cost-effective, the town will issue a request for proposal, or otherwise referred to as an RFP, that includes the required specifications. Any systems meeting those specifications will be reviewed by the engineering staff and the superintendent. The top 2 or 3 systems will then be brought before the Sewer Commission for the final selection and your ultimate approval. Has a funding source been designated? Funding for this current phase will be from the nitrogen mitigation money at the Cape Cod Commission, which the Select Board has approved for release and did authorize me. The feasibility study for Willow Bend and Southport treatment plants. How will this feasibility study be funded, was the question. The study will be funded through the nitrogen mitigation money as well. Question was, how long is the study expected to take? I would say approximately 4 to 6 months. When will final plans be reported? By whom and to whom, was the question. A final report and recommendation will be reported to the Sewer Commission by GHD and the wastewater superintendent who sits at your table. How will the subject be raised with town voters? The town webpage and warrant article at the annual town meeting will be the process. There was an issue regarding the potential shared facility with Sandwich. Who will conduct the evaluation? GHD will be conducting the evaluation, and there is additional information in the works on that. How does the analysis fit the IMA? If the town of Sandwich chooses to be involved jointly, it would be point source nutrient reduction of existing septic loads. Sandwich could also choose not to physically build infrastructure within their town and could decide to fund a portion of the Mashpee plan and receive credit for the percentage nitrogen removing depending upon the level of financial commitment. And finally, there was a question relative to the PEF for Coit watershed management. Is this reliant on a watershed agreement with Falmouth and Sandwich? The answer is no, regardless of what the other towns plan for their percentage of nitrogen reduction. The town of Mashpee still has to remove its portion of the nitrogen load. And I know in terms of the IMA, there'll be further comments pending. So I will defer to the Honorable Selectwoman.
I just have a question about the PEF for the septic system north of Wakeby Pond. So that's not a fait accompli. You said pending determination of feasibility for cost. So what's the status of that? It's in the process now of being examined for whether it's cost effective to do that?
I think the appropriate thing for me right now is to defer to the superintendent who sits here.
Yeah, so the PEF is just letting them know that we're going to be pursuing this project, and it goes through a rating process to then determine what our SR funding would be. They submitted the PEF. On the submittal, we scored really high as a good project. Obviously, the DEP will have the final determination of what that is. So that, once that gets, well, it's in, there'll be a public comment period. While that public comment period is going, we're developing more information, trying to get the hydrogeo load, whether or not Sandwich is going to go in. There's a lot of information that we can then submit afterwards, that before the public comment period, so we can bolster our project more. Then we go in the spring, we get for funding for design, but we've got to make sure that they're going to determine all the facts, whether or not it's cheaper to actually run a pipe from the plant all the way up there, or just to keep it locally. It obviously looks like it's cheaper to keep it locally, but you never know until the study's done. We want to be able to back up the facts.
Okay, and that's expected in the spring?
Yeah, so that will be done in the next couple of months.
Oh, okay.
By November, December, and then that'll give us time to then submit a warrant article if it's decided to go forward with this process, which will come before your board before that decision's made to make the warrant article.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collins, thank you so much for giving us
Welcome.
information. Would you like to share with us your perspective on where you're going with the goals, or anything else that you'd like to add?
I can share that I'm glad that they were approved.
Okay.
And as I pointed out unanimously, I think the town has identified this as a real serious concern and problem. I think the initiatives that have been undertaken regarding clean water have been positive results, moving in a progressive direction, and I think right now it's about process and progress. And I think we're continuing along in the process to make progress. I think in the end, obviously, generations from now, there will be folks long after I'm gone thanking us. And I think that speaks volumes for the town and its commitment in making a real difference regarding the problem that we face today. I don't think it's going to be taken care of overnight, next week, next month, or even next year. But I do think ultimately we will make a substantial difference, and I do believe that this financial commitment and the commitment that we've made operationally and policy-wise makes sense for the town in moving in the right direction to finally address a pressing need that has been ignored for far too long.
Thank you very much for your leadership. Are there any questions of the commissioners for Mr. Collins?
Just thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate your leadership. Next on the agenda, we have another visitor from Select Person Michelle Wyman-Colombo, who will be, I'm sorry, no, the next person on the agenda is the town manager. No, I'm sorry. I think we've heard from the town manager. We would like to hear now from Select Person Michaela Wyman-Colombo, who will be talking to us about the intermunicipal agreements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. I know that this group knows what intermunicipal agreements are and understands that we have two of these, one with Papaneset Bay, with Barnstable, Sandwich, and Mashpee, and one for Wacoit Bay. The one with for Papaneset Bay has been in place for several years. We've become much more active recently. We meet on pretty much a monthly basis. We did skip a couple months this summer, but we're in regular contact. At our last meeting, which was just this Wednesday, we talked a lot about the cluster system that's proposed for Mashpee-Wakeby. Sandwich has expressed considerable interest in the system. And what Sandwich needs to know, as I guess we need to know, is what will this do to our nitrogen reduction? So Sandwich, again, is very interested, but needs to have those numbers put in place for them. At the IMA on Wednesday, it was decided that GHD would get those percentages for Sandwich, and which would enable them to start to make a decision, and that the engineers for both Sandwich and Mashpee would look at the figures together and present at our next IMA meeting, which is going to be scheduled for late October or the first 2 weeks in November, dependent upon when we can get all the engineers in the same room. So that's certainly, there's a tremendous amount of interest in that project from both towns. So that's promising. We just need the figures. I think it should allay people's concerns that we're going to have two sets of engineering teams working on this and coming together and presenting to us. With regard to, I think that's pretty much an update for that IMA. With regard to the Wacoit Bay IMA, that was just signed in early spring. So all three towns have signed in, all three towns are in this binding agreement. The working group has met once and really had a substantive meeting, sharing what each one of us is doing, discussing ways in which we might work together, and kind of knowing that our focus in Mashpee, because we're finishing this, has been more Papaneset focused. Not that we're forgetting about Wacoit, as you can see in the town manager's goals. We certainly are, and that's moving forward. But we decided that we could wait for a meeting until we had something more firm to put together. We tried to meet over the summer. Getting everybody together to meet over the summer, it was just challenging. So we're trying to set up a September meeting. We were all set up for September 18th. One Cape is September 18th, and my understanding is wastewater issues are going to be part of that, and we didn't want to take that away from people. So we're searching for a day in late September for that meeting.
Okay. And just for clarification, the towns involved in the Wacoit Bay IMA?
Mm-hmm. Sandwich, Falmouth, and Mashpee. With Sandwich's load there is actually quite light. I always jot it down so I don't get it wrong. Sandwich's attenuated load is 6%, whereas Mashpee's is 44% and 50% is Falmouth. Okay. But nonetheless, Sandwich is working with us on that.
Great. Are you pleased with the progress so far?
I am. I truly believe there's a real commitment to making this happen. All of the participants, our colleagues in both, especially Falmouth and Sandwich, have been at the table. Barnstable is interested in working with us. They are committed to their part of the IMA and to make sure this happens. They're focused, just as people have to focus somewhere. Everybody has a lot of work to do. Their primary focus right now is the other side of town. So they haven't been as active in the meetings, but they've been asked to be kept in the loop, and they've confirmed their commitment to the process.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other IMA?
Thank you.
Okay. While I'm here, if I may, I spoke with the chair of the select board, and at her request, I'm wondering if we can set up a tour for the select board soon.
A tour of the wastewater
Tour of the
recovery
wastewater
facility?
treatment plant for the whole select board. That would be a really informative trip for all of us. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if this impacts you, sorry for, I don't know if this impacts you and the IMA. Apparently, from what the town manager said, that the watershed agreements are not impacted in any way. But on our website, Jared, you're the contact person for the intent to file watershed agreements for both Papaneset Bay and Waquoit Bay. Where does all of this fit together? So the intent was made, and then where are the watershed agreements, and where do we go with that?
I didn't do the agreements right. That was before I got here.
Okay.
Oh, because you're listed as the person to contact in case there are questions.
The notice, you're talking about the notice of intent to
Yes.
follow, to submit watershed permits. I thought the date was July. I could be mistaken, but I thought it was July. And our notice of intent was submitted by the due date. Falmouth everybody has submitted a notice of intent. We haven't submitted a notice of intent together at this point, but each of our plans is going to show what the other town is doing to mitigate the nitrogen. So I'm not writing the watershed permit, but I know that part of our watershed permit will talk about what Barnstable and Sandwich are also doing and how we might work together, whether it's nitrogen credits or cost sharing.
Excellent.
So we've submit separately to get the NOIs in, and but it really doesn't impact our agreement to work with one another on that.
Great. Okay, that clarifies it.
Okay.
This is a question from a member in the audience. Could you come and state your name and your address, please?
Hi, thank you. So I did poke in here, I'm sorry. Michaela
Your name,
and...
please.
Oh, Susan Dangle, President of Save Mashpee Wakeby Pond Alliance. Just wanted to address both Jared and Michaela with regard to the agreement with Sandwich. And even what Mr. Collins mentioned with regard to his goals. I'm hearing nitrogen, 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 which is what we're mandated to do by the state. But for the owners of the properties on the north side of Wakeby, it's phosphorus, phosphorus, phosphorus. So I just want to clarify that that's been discussed, and that's part of the what GHD will be looking for from the people who are.
May I?
Oh, go ahead.
Yep, so yes, in order to get the SRF money, we're a nitrogen impaired area, so that is the predominant,
Well,
but,
do both.
but it'll do, it's a twofer.
Yes.
So,
And
the plan.
Sandwich acknowledged that as well. The reason I mentioned the nitrogen, in order for Sandwich to either build something of their own or contribute to the cost in Mashpee, they need to show how this is going to fit with removing nitrogen. Both towns were highly committed to the phosphorus removal.
Sure. Well,
It's-
I think it's pretty critical, because if you're going to have everybody dig up their yard to convert and not take phosphorus out, it would be a problem.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
No,
clarify that
that's-
it's in the goals of GHD looking at these systems, that they're going to do both.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's
And
given.
both towns were committed to that. It's just, as I said, for SRF and for showing how they meet the watershed plan, that's why the concentration was on nitrogen, but both towns understand the need to remove phosphorus.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for presenting to us. The next item on the agenda is the chair's report. And I just wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things that are coming up, or that have already come up. And we need to have a great congratulations to Mashpee for getting a very large award through the governor's office for $1.6 million for Santuit Pond mitigation for cyanobacteria and for restoration. But and part of this had come from the in the Mashpee enterprise. I don't know if there's also some plan for a boat, a town landing. And was that for the boat ramp that's in Mashpee Wakeby that was originally slated for redesign? Or is there a town landing also in Sintuit Pond that was going to be revamped? And if are you aware of it, and did you know?
So I'm not specifically sure if there is a landing in the Santuit Pond.
Okay.
It's actually in the location where we're going to attempt to put one of the pump stations in phase 2. And I know that when we went for our meeting, the original date, Catherine was at the Conservation Commission talking to them about the piece of land at that landing at the Santuit Pond, which will be right across the street where we plan to put a pump station. So I believe that's what that was for.
It's interesting how all the pieces come together, isn't it? Whether the construction of the collection system or the pump stations.
And quickly, actually.
Say it again?
And actually quickly, since we first started talking about this, so.
Well, we'll get clarification. I'd like that to be, for us to talk about that at our next meeting, because I think it's very exciting and very important that that's going to be happening. The other that I have a question for you, Jared, that we can talk about at our next meeting too, is that you've mentioned the amphidrome system as a possibility. And if you wouldn't mind coming with just a brief explanation of what that is. It's a fascinating term, and I've looked it up, or we looked at some information, but perhaps we can discuss it and learn a little bit more about it as a different collection system.
I know we did a presentation before. I would like to check with town council. The only reason why I say that is because if this is a project that we're moving forward with and we're going to end up putting it out an RFP for, I don't want to have anybody feel that we're tipping the scales towards one company when another company could be just as competitive. So if you allow me some time to just check and make sure that they feel it's okay and it wouldn't create that type of
Okay,
feeling.
So this may be proprietary information, and it may present a conflict of interest, so we'd hold off on it.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
I just thought I would at least mention it so that we would at least have it on the table.
Yeah, and what I could do is, in the meantime, maybe I could try to get something together that just gives a general overview of what one of these package-type plants is in general, and not a specific to a brand name or something like that, because there's many different technologies that are used and processes, and maybe I can just get like a quick overview put together, so then that way I don't stomp on, any conflicts there.
Do you know when the RFP might be coming out? Or is it too premature to be asked?
So it would probably, we'd probably submit the RFP, the actual RFP. It might be premature. Let me double check on that because I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, I don't want you to be
get
put on the
timelines.
spot either.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't be
Yes.
fair to you. Okay, then the other thing that's looming on the horizon, and there's a bit of a time need for us to address it, is there is going to be a plaque that's going to be put on the wastewater recovery facility. And there is a question, and we need to get some more information about whose names will be going on it. And some of the questions were, and how far back do we go to see which names? There was supposed to be people who have been involved in the Clean Water Plan. Well, the Clean Water Plan was completed in 2015, but it had been worked on for many years before that. So we'll need to be thinking about how far back do we want to go with which names might go on the plaque. So I welcome comment from our select board members and liaison, and also from commissioners. And I think it also lends itself to public comment as well, with people being able to contact us to let us know what their opinions are, because I think it is only fair that we do have some open discussion about this. And certainly I'll be having a conversation with the town manager as well to see whether or not there is a commitment that has been made that needs to be made and kept. Are there any other comments about those? No. And then we have a number of different issues, including town meeting. Does anyone know when town meeting is going to be scheduled for in October? Is it the 21st?
Sounds about right.
Okay. since the Finance Committee plays an important role in that meeting, I think Mr. Milbury will probably have it on his calendar as well.
It's a Monday, so it would be the 21st.
Okay, so the 21st of October. So there are questions that we might have in the works that would need to be talked about and considered within our next meeting, which would be September 5th. And then the next meeting would be September 19th. Now, I know that there'll be a couple of members of the commission who might not be available, which means that we would not have a quorum. So we need to be aware of what issues need to be discussed and on the table before town meeting, so before the 21st. So we do have then time in October to consider some important items, just so that we have an idea of what our timelines are. So that's all I have to report. Are there any other? Oh, no, it's not. We are still looking for members to join the Sewer Commission. We have 2 openings. And I did ask the commissioners to please come up with a reason why they have chosen to be members of the Sewer Commission. And so Mr. Towle has agreed to start the conversation.
Why did I become a member? My entire professional life has been either doing, supervising, or teaching facilities management. And I retired, and I'm at that point in my life where I'd like to give something back to the town. And when I heard about this, I said, you know, probably the biggest problem facing Cape Cod is clean water and what we're going to do with our sewage. And you look at it, we should have been doing this years and years ago, but we didn't. So I had been involved in building a plant in the past, and I threw my hat in the ring. And I guess the question is, do I regret it? And the answer is absolutely no, because you learn so much about why it is so important when you get in the weeds, which is certainly where we've been spending a lot of time. It's gonna be expensive, we all know that, but we don't have, you know, we may have enough money to do it right once, but we've got to make absolutely sure that, you know, we are good stewards of that money. And I've been having a great time watching this come together. We've got great engineering. We've been blessed with some good contractors. And, you know, we're moving right along. It took a while to get in this mess. It's going to take a while to get out of this mess. But I think we're going to see in the not too distant future some turnaround. So that's why I joined, and I would say anyone who you know, would like to give back some time, maybe if you have a background in the sciences, that might be helpful, or construction, or you just want to be a good neighbor and help out. So we'd love to have you.
Thank you.
I can go.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Similar reasons brought me to the table, but I would say that that at the time I had just retired as an environmental consultant for many years, and I was looking for an opportunity to use all that experience that I had in water quality science and analysis and environmental compliance, public outreach, and actually the design and planning, the planning, design, and initiation of big construction projects as part of disaster recovery. And I didn't always get to see the whole thing from beginning to end. And even in the places where I did cleanup, I would be involved in the initial stages of it for many years, and then I'd be pulled onto something else, and I didn't get to see the final stages of cleanup. But here I am actually living in a town that is attacking environmental quality head on, and I thought, geez, with the sewer commission openings that we're that were announced, I just said, there's an opportunity for me to also apply my experience and also learn. So, and see how things are done from beginning to end, hopefully, and, well, maybe partially, at least phase one, I said. And that's what drew me to it, because phase one, I thought, wow, it's an essential part of the whole project. If phase one doesn't come off just right, we're not going to get the town taken care of. And so I wanted to see the initial part of the project get off on good ground. And yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but it's interesting, and I recommend it to others that have similar interests in serving and seeing an interesting project work its way. And I was also interested in learning about how my local government works and where I could contribute. So I that was important to me too, and that's another reason to get involved. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Sprout?
Yes, hi. Oh, well, I became interested about the same time Catherine did, because I've spent so many years in this town and seen the rapid rise of the number of people here. And as the population goes up, the water quality goes down, and it was quite noticeable. So having a farm, we deal with water issues on a little bit of a different basis. We're trying to make it stretch as far as we can and grow what we can with the least impact as far as downstream water quality. And again, it's a big project, and I'm also interested in the technology of how this is going together. And because there's so many different kinds of wastewater treatment plants, I was actually interested in that. It's fascinating, and it's a subject that I think is still evolving, and the new technology is very exciting. There are some things that we may be able to take advantage of, because so far we've only done part of the project, and we always knew that. So let's see what happens with the rest of it. But I'm also concerned about the cost for the people that are in the low-income bracket. We have to be able to make this affordable, because I don't want to see anyone feel they have to leave the town, sell their land or their house, or just move out because they cannot afford to hook up and be on the sewer system. That's completely unacceptable. We have to be able to keep this town affordable, because a lot of people, well, there's not too many of us left, bought land or have had homes here for generations, and they've seen the inflation just turn over so many times that their house is now, the property is worth values that were astronomical back in the 60s. You just can't believe it. But the income hasn't kept pace. So people who've been here are kind of in a bind, and I want to make sure that whatever we can do, we can serve everyone and get the best water quality we can.
Excellent,
Thanks.
thank you. And I came to the commission as a resident initially. I've been on the, a member of the town as a summer resident first, and now as a full-time resident. And the first time 4 years ago that I became fully aware of the water quality in Mashpee was when Mashpee Wakeby Pond was closed. And as an avid swimmer, I was struck with awe with the fact that this beautiful lake has been severely impaired. And so learning much about what happens with water quality and why it's happened, as my other commissioners have spoken about. It's been a long time coming, and it'll be a long time before we clean it up. But as a resident of Mashpee, a town that I have loved all my life, being a researcher and an educator, and having had a strong professional relationship with engineers, I have enjoyed the working relationships with them and the learning as part of town government, and learning the whole process of our being able to put our clean water strategies into effect is something that fascinates me, that has me very excited about it. I'm aware of how much the different town boards, committees, commissions all have to work together. And I feel very strongly about our commission working with the tribe, working with the select board, working with the Board of Health, working with planning, with conservation, with public works, so that we're all looking at clean water, whether it's stormwater management or whether it is clean water management, whether it's the building of the sewer, whether it's figuring out how all of the town is going to be put together in a lot of ways to help us to address the big problems that we have. And again, I know Jared is very new with us within the last year, and we are very thankful for your leadership and the work that you've been doing in helping to continue to move this project forward, because you've been a kingpin for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and giving that as a lead-in, it is time for the wastewater superintendent's report.
Thank you. So since our last meeting, the subcommittee for the policies has met twice. We've reviewed policies 1 through 4. The first 3 have already gone back to, made all our changes and should be reviewed while I'm on vacation, and then we'll finalize them and bring them forward to the committee. And as well as we have 3 more policies that we have to dive into, and then we'll be able to bring all the policies forward. Some of the things additional that I want to just bring up, just so you're aware, is this week we did or end of last week, Mashpee TV came through the plant, did video of the whole plant. This week I went in and spoke, and so they're putting together, they're doing all the editing right now to try to get something half-hour long that we can just keep the taxpayers informed that, you know, your $30 million that went to the plant is actually going to a plant, and this is what we got. And one of the most impressive things was that wiring Scott was talking about. They spent a lot, I mean, they were like, wow. So it's going to be on there. I was actually, that's the first time I've ever actually seen one of those cabinets fully open, and I was just amazed at what's in there. So we're going to have a lot of those type of shots in there, and we plan on coming back and doing it again prior to the plant open, so people can see, you know, this is kind of what the finished product is coming out to be. Yesterday we met with the Phase 1A group, getting ready to start construction. It was our second meeting. We decided yesterday, because one of the concerns is the green stakes. A lot of people are getting ready to disappear for the winter again soon, and to wait to put those stakes out could result in people going, wait a minute, my septic is over here. So what I asked them to do yesterday, and everybody's on board, is Environmental Partners is going to go out and put the stakes in front of yards in the rough areas of what the 60% drawings show. We feel that is with a laminated card on it that'll tell them to contact my office if they need to have it moved. And that way, at least these residents that are here only for the summer do have a good opportunity to make changes, because some people, once they lose that septic, are probably already thinking addition or a swimming pool or something. So we want to make sure we can accommodate that and not lock them in. So that has been a concern that I've received over and over, and that's what we decided to do. So we're going to drop them in the ground. Hopefully in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, they should start going in.
Cool.
I told them I want it before Labor Day. So
Excellent.
that's going in there.
Very forward thinking.
Yeah, thank you. So, and that's pretty much what's going on. Like I said, I'm going to be gone for the next roughly 10 days. And then I'll be back for a little bit. Then I do have to take off again, but I will address these issues before I go with Karen and try to get some of these things going.
I just have one other question for you. And several meetings ago, we had talked about you and the engineers coming together with giving us an overall large picture plan of where we're going, when, each step of the way, so that we get kind of a big idea of the 20 to 30 year plan. Do you have a general idea of when that might be, at least a ballpark of where we might be going with that, and when would be the appropriate time for that report to be coming forward?
So we had 2 things come up since that meeting. So Mashpee Wakeby Pond got pushed to a higher priority on the project. So that kind of shifted some timelines. Nothing got pushed back, but it's changing priorities of work because we have certain deadlines we have to meet. So that was one of the what's creating the delays. And the other part is right now all the engineering firms they're all taking their vacations right now. So I can't, my 2 primaries at GHD, Mark and Anastasia, both of them are out right now. I have talked to Mark. He did give me a overview timeline to review. I've made some changes on it. It's sent back, so I'm expecting that soon, and I will follow up with him, or at least drop in an email before I go, so he knows to continue on it.
Do you think that we might have something before the town meeting, so that we'd have something at least that we've discussed as a group and have some information that would be able to at least give people an idea of where we're going by town meeting?
Yes, before town meeting, absolutely.
Okay, so perhaps sometime in September, we'd have the discussion at our meeting before, or sometime.
Probably end of September, either the second meeting in September or the first meeting in October. I'm pretty sure Mark will meet the deadline of the September date, but I'll check with him first.
Okay. And probably the October would probably be best if we can hold that firm, because then we might have other commissioners who would be on vacation until then.
Okay.
Are there any other comments about, is there any addition to the website?
Not at this point. We're gonna
Okay, we
continue
did
to
talk
work on
about
that in
wanting to do
September.
something about the WWRF
Yeah,
on the
I
website.
do want to provide a little update, but that'll be forthcoming.
Okay. Are there any other issues that any of the commissioners would like to bring forward at this time?
Hearing none, I move we adjourn.
I'll second it. Yeah.
That being the case, then I believe that we stand adjourned then. Are
Approved.
there anybody, may we have a vote, not a roll call, but a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye as well. All right, thank you all for your attention and for your work. And Susan Donovan, thank you so much for your work as recording secretary. And Jared Meter, again, thank you very much for the